Wow, everybody, we are so excited for you to hear the discussion we just had with all-pro defensive back for the Patriots, Brenden Schooler. Dustin, that was awesome. Talked about resilience, talked about his work ethic. What are you most excited for people to hear?
Well, we got into a lot of things with him, even how he handled COVID and how some of the athletes he was around dealt with COVID and how they still figured out ways to get the work in. But the greatest things that he talked about was how he managed his day, that elite level mindset you have to have if you want to be successful at something. And then he even talked about some spiritual things that are important to him in his life. And so anytime we can have an all-pro NFL football player on and talking to us while he's currently at camp out in Massachusetts, just finished up practice an hour ago, it's valuable to listen to. Whether you play football or not, you ought to give this a listen.
Yeah, this is awesome. Here's all-pro defensive back Brenden Schooler.
Welcome to the Sportlight Podcast for parents, coaches, and athletes. The Sportlight refers to the time in an athlete's life when they have increased ability to affect the culture around them and the increased opportunity to learn life's lessons through sports. This podcast aims to help parents and coaches capitalize on their athletes' precious time in the Sportlight. The Sportlight Podcast is brought to you by Especially for Athletes program.
So Brenden Schooler playing with the New England Patriots right now. We appreciate having you on, Brenden. We were just talking off air about how crazy 2020 was, and you were an athlete at that time. You played at the University of Texas, is where you ended up graduating or finishing your football career. Did you graduate there, or did you come out early?
I graduated at the University of Oregon and was a grad transfer to the University of Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. During COVID as an athlete, how did that, I know physically it was tough because we couldn't get in person and do some of the same types of workouts in person that, in the weight room and things that we could do now or before then. But mentally, how did you see that affect either yourself or teammates and things of yours? How was that?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't easy mentally. And, luckily I had some really, really good teammates around me who were like-minded, and we didn't let the restrictions of us being in the building, the restrictions of us using the facilities kind of hold us back from wanting to accomplish a common goal that we all had. So we met up and we threw the football around at parks. We put each other through drills, and obviously running these things by our coaches. What do you think we should do, since we're really not allowed to be, in the building when we're not supposed to get that extra work that we wanted. So, like I said, having those guys around myself and, being able to push each other and, keep everyone in line and, have that same common goal. And, at the end of the tunnel, I think was, something that we all leaned on each other for. And, everybody didn't, know exactly what was going to happen. And there was a lot of uncertainty, but, us having each other through that, really helped us get through those hard times.
Had you been in high school during that time? And as you know, a lot of schools, they didn't play football, they didn't play any sports. Had you been in high school and then been told you weren't going to play your senior year because of COVID, what do you think that would have been like mentally for you and your teammates, being that football, I assume, was an outlet for you, right? Probably mentally, and it was your thing. Can you imagine, or how would you have handled that, you think?
Yeah, I mean, that would have been devastating for myself and, all my teammates and my younger brother, because that's something that sports and then, sports as a whole has been an outlet for myself, my brother, guys on my teams, my friends. So to be able to, have someone tell you you can't play a sport that you love, I mean, I would have gone through the gauntlet of emotions. I would have been frustrated, sad, mad. And then, you kind of, as a guy, you try to, find solutions to things. Well, what can we do to, put some film out there? Can we start our own league? Can we do this? Can we use this field? Like, what can we do? Just, trying to go out there and just do something you love and have someone tell you no. It's really frustrating. And I can't even imagine those guys that had to go through that. And maybe didn't have the resources to pull together and, start their own league, or, whatever it was, if it was an all-star league, So just having someone tell you no to do something you love is beyond frustrating. And I don't even want to picture myself in that situation,
Yeah.
Only imagining how hard it would be.
Shad, you're in the education world. Shad, it's been 4 years now. We've seen it up close, obviously, and especially for athletes. But in your world and, outside of here, we're 4 years from it. What have you seen or noticed, or we were all afraid of what might come of that? Are we dealing with some of the ramifications of the social inabilities that kids were forced to have during COVID?
I think for sure, right? Even studies are beginning to show that. But one of the things is, as Brenden was speaking, one of the things that I thought of, I heard one time that trials reveal character, right? And I think during that time, one of two things happened, even at the professional levels and even at the college levels, right? High level college athletics. And is some people, if they have a good excuse to not do something, they'll take it, right? Yeah. And so, I'm living this higher, I'm really concerned about everything going on, and so I'm not going to do anything, right? It was a great excuse to completely disengage if you wanted to. But trials reveal character. And I think what happened during that time is we found out some people aren't as tough as they thought they were. Without the structure, without someone riding them, without those things, they really went downhill. But some cream rise to the top as well. It revealed who had high character, who had high work ethic, who had self-motivation. And as I think about, what Brenden was saying there, that's probably why he's in the NFL, because of the fact that he got some people, and I'm sure it wasn't everybody, right? Who's going to parks and they're saying, "Hey, coaches, what would be the most valuable things for us to do?" And they're working and they're putting in that work and doing stuff away from the facility because they could. I bet there was plenty of people playing PlayStation at that time, right? And so I think one of the things we're just seeing now is what that time did to people. And it's not all people's fault. I'm not saying that, but those who were proactive, those who said, "No, this isn't going to stop me from my goals. I'm going to find ways to make things happen," they really surpassed people. But I think it's kind of a metaphor. That was a super weird and exaggerated time of life that we all look back at now as so weird, right? But I think we face those things in our lives every day, right? Where either someone tells us we can't do something, or some circumstances arise, or we wake up not feeling good. And we face that choice in little ways every day. Are we going to go to the park and work out, or are we going to sit and play PlayStation? Kind of thing. And so, that's what I'm seeing, Dustin, in my world, is that I think it's being revealed right now who is resilient, who said, I can't control this right now, but I'm gonna do what I can do, and who just laid back and used it as an excuse to not do anything.
I shared a quote on our social media not too long ago that said, "You won't be," and I'm kind of paraphrasing the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, "You'll never become your best, or you won't become elite, or whatever, if you only work on the days you feel like it." Mm-hmm. And, and in hearing Brenden speak, I was on a podcast yesterday talking more about the quarterbacks that I work with, and some of the ones who are currently Division I and a handful that are in the NFL. And the person asked me, what separates those that made it that far? And I said, well, first of all, we need to understand, oftentimes there's some genetic gifts that these athletes are given. And it's mm-hmm. I would love to say every one of them just woke up at 5 a.m. every morning and just, and sometimes you're 6'8" and you're really big and you're going to have a chance, but there's a difference between talent and skill, right? A skill set has to really be developed. And so I started talking about, outside of that, what made them different. And Brenden, it was interesting hearing you talk about, you could not, as hard as you tried to answer that question, you couldn't get away from the fact that you kept coming back to, but we would go out and work, and we would find other ways, and we would figure other things out. And I loved hearing that, because you're one who's made it. You're playing at the highest level of football. You had a great season. You're with a great franchise who really looks for guys like you. That's why they've been so successful. But you couldn't answer that question without coming back to the fact that you found a way to address the solution. And that was, we might have to go to a park. We might have to figure out a way to, whatever. We just got to do something. And I said in that interview that that's really what separates the greats, is that they plan their days around what they have to do to be great, and they don't let other distractions get in the way of that. That's a priority, and that's cemented. In your progression in high school and college in the NFL, some of the athletes that you've been around, has there been any that their work ethic or their example has really made an impact in your life? And would you mind, if so, sharing what it was they did that impacted you?
Yeah, I think it all starts from myself. It starts with my dad and my mom, because they were both, collegiate athletes. My dad played football at Eastern Michigan. My mom was a volleyball player at Cal State LA. And I think from a very young age, they saw in, my brother and myself that, okay, these kids, and my sister as well. My sister was a phenomenal volleyball player. They saw that, all right, these kids might be able to do something in, the athletic world. And so they instilled in all three of us, there's people who go out there and will beat their chest and beat on the drums and say, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's not those people who typically rise to the top. It's the people who do their work in silence and who do it day in and day out. And they enjoy the grind. They love the process. They love going through the pain, the sweat, the tears, all of that. They love to compete. And I think having that instilled in me at a young age was just work. Just go to work. Just go to work. Just go to work. No matter what's going on in your life, make that a constant. Go to work. Go to work every day. There's going to be days you wake up and you don't want to roll out of bed and you want to hit that snooze button and you want to go get that extra hour of sleep. But your goals and aspirations don't care how you feel at the end of the day. And that was one of my old teammates. He said that, Jalen Mills, last year. I remember it was during this time last year, and we're, running like dogs out there. And, he kept saying that quote over and over again. And that's one of the quotes that stuck with me. And, you get to this level and everybody is just physically gifted. Everybody is. But it's the guys who can go through all of that hard training and, the early mornings and, lifting heavy weights and, everything that happens in between there. It's the guys who are mentally strong enough to show up every day and be that same guy every day, whether that's for yourself, whether that's for your teammates, whether you're a leader, whether you're leading by, example, or you're a vocal leader. You got to show up every day and put in the work. And I think having my parents instill that in me, I'm like, look, there's not going to be a single soul on this team who's going to outwork me today. I am going to lay it all on the line, and I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to wake up the next day and I'm going to do it again. And having guys who are like-minded like that around you, when you start pushing each other in those ways where you just test your mental strength, because your mind will take you to places your body didn't think it can go. So as long as you're rock solid up top, you're going to be fine in whatever workout that you're going to be doing. And if that's you having to drag people along with you, then you be that guy. Or whether that's you, when you're going to get a little mentally fatigued in a workout, lean on that guy who's going to be mentally strong and have him drag you. Because at the end of the day, he's going to prove to you that whatever you put your mind to, you will accomplish.
Well, first of all, I just have to pause here and say I played baseball at Cal State LA. So
there we go.
You don't hear that college a lot, but So shout out to your mom there, a golden eagle, a fellow golden eagle. And
Love
so,
it.
yeah, that's all I wanted to say, Dustin. I didn't have a profound thought. You lost me. I'm sure everything you said after that was great, but no, I'm just kidding. It was.
You just wanted to name drop that you played at Cal State.
That was awesome. Yeah. I remember your mom. She was probably a couple years before me. No.
Yeah.
So can I ask a question about what his response, which was awesome,
Sure.
so awesome. Can you say that phrase again, that about your feelings?
Your goals and aspirations don't care how you feel at the end of the day. Yeah, because if you put this out there and you're like, look, guys, this year I want to be, whatever accolade that I want to get. Well, guess what? You put that out there and you made it clear to everybody else that this is what you want to do. Well, guess what? That goal doesn't care if you don't want to wake up early one day. That goal doesn't care if your back's feeling a little tight, like, oh, I can, make this excuse, my back's tight today, coach. Sorry, I can't. Like, your feelings don't care. So it's you got to do whatever it is that you have to do to get there. And having that rock foundation for me, I wasn't highly recruited out of high school. I was a 2-star recruit at a high school that was super thankful to get a scholarship offer from the University of Oregon. And that's all I wanted to do all of high school, was just work my tail off to get to that spot. And it didn't matter how I felt that day, because I made that goal and I made that promise not only to myself, but to my family. Is like, I can go do this. I'm going to go do this. So when I didn't want to run those gases after practice, or if I didn't want to, stay late at track and like work on my starts and, do all these things that athletes need to do outside of their necessity, like their training that they're called to do, you aren't going to reach that potential, because there's everyone's always got potential, but it's you got to go find it. You can't rely on your coach every day to go tell you to go do something, because he can't want it more than you.
Yeah.
So having those obstacles to overcome, and the trials and tribulations that you go through in life, you just got to find a way through it. And for me, that was just to work. Like, let me go to work and let me show you why I deserve to be here.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's you went into this a little bit, but the question I had is, I'm just trying to help athletes picture the way an elite athlete thinks, because being exposed to that, they can start having those thought patterns. So I'm sure, like everybody else, even as a professional athlete, you wake up some mornings and you don't feel like doing what your goals demand, right? Mm-hmm. But your goals don't care about your feelings.
They don't.
So what can you take us into your mind, like when you have that hesitation, when you're thinking either I don't want to get up right now, man, I just want to sleep, or after practice, I don't want to stay and run those gassers. What does an elite athlete tell themselves to overcome those feelings so that they can meet their goals? Tell us about your inner talk there in that moment.
I don't know if you really want to know what I tell myself in the morning. It's definitely not a nice choice of words, but it's I kind of look at it as like, you got to be kind of crazy. Like, nobody in their right mind wants to put their body and test their mental strength in whatever sport it is. Like, you got to go tap that potential yourself. And when you're, dog tired after practice and you got to go run or, do extra work with whoever you're going to drag along with you, I think it's at the end of the day, it's like, if I'm doing this, which is like the baseline, like if I'm just doing the necessity that I need to do, somebody else is out there trying to do this as well. So what am I going to do to give myself a leg up on my competition? Because at this level, they're trying to replace you every year. They're trying to get a new group of guys in who want to take your spot. So how hungry are you? Because I remember how hungry I was leading up to the draft, leading up to, when I got the phone call from the Patriots and, I was undrafted, but, I still got that phone call and it was like, hey, I'm coming to you guys. Like I remember how hungry I was. And so I think about all those kids coming out of college who are just as hungry as I was. So I'm like, okay, well, I got to do something more now. Like I got to be a little crazy. I got to find someone who's crazy like me to help push me through whatever workout we're doing. And my good buddy Adrian Phillips, who actually played at Texas quite a few years before me and was with the Pats for the past 4 years. Him and I work out together in the off season, and he's just as psychotic as I am. Like in our workouts, we're like, "Oh, how many reps did you do here? Oh, I did 10. All right, I'm doing 12 just to just to make you mad. Like I outworked you today." So it's having those people to push you, and always having that drive where I'm like, no one is going to come in and take my spot. Like I've worked too damn hard to get here, and if I'm gonna let somebody do this, no, that's not happening today. So just always having that constant like thought in the back of your head to never settle and never be complacent, because somebody out there is working just as hard or harder to have the spot that you're in.
See, and what I hear, Dustin, and I'm sure you got thoughts, but you're like competing against yourself. Like a true competitor doesn't need an opponent, right? He or she just needs a temptation, like stay in bed. And it's like, forget you. I'm not staying in bed. Like I'm getting out of it. Like, you almost have to compete against those thoughts just like you would against an opponent.
Yep.
Yeah.
The old Native American Sitting Bull has a phrase that he says he has two dogs inside of him. And which one becomes the alpha dog is the one that he feeds the most. Mm-hmm. Right. And there in all of us is a dog that wants to rest. There's the inside dog that wants to be inside and be warm and be taken care of and fed. And, it's the house cat or the house dog. And then there's the one that wants to go to work and go earn and do things. Whichever one we feed the most will be who we become, right? What our personality, will become. And I'm sure you're aware of the name Eric Weddle. Yep. You guys play some similar positions. Eric's a good friend of ours, friend of our program. We've had him on the podcast. He's been at a couple events of ours, and he's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. I would guess here not too long. But he said something as you were speaking, and I want your thoughts on this, because it's funny how you guys, Shad, you probably felt this. There's this similar mind, and to play defense. Like I'm an offensive guy. Football is my life. And you got to be a crazy son of a gun to play defense, especially to be good at it. Like you got to, and sometimes I just hate you guys. Like I wish I could take part of you and put you in my, some of the offensive guys I coach, because you're just crazy. But he would go through his day, and he did it on our podcast, how early he'd get up and go in, the weight room and film, and then a massage, and then an ice bath. And then anyway, go through the whole thing. But he said something really interesting in our podcast, and we've used it many times, where he talked about knowing that there was somebody else coming every year to possibly take his spot, that was a motivation to him. But he said he learned a lesson early in his career. He would ask other safeties, other people who played the position he played, for advice, guys on his own team and even guys from other teams. And he was surprised at how few of them were willing to give it to him. Mm-hmm. And until he realized, wait a minute, this isn't like the old days. This is a business. These guys see me as a threat, and they don't want to give up any of their secrets or anything that they look, man, you got to figure this thing out yourself. I'm not giving you anything, an inch, because you might come and take my spot someday. But Eric actually took it the other way personally himself, where he said he went out of his way to give the younger rookies or the younger football player that came into the franchise, to give them advice and to help them and to actually tell them things that would make them better. And then he said something that was so awesome. And I said, why, Shatter? I asked him, well, wait a minute. Aren't you nervous about the same thing? You just gave them some advice that could maybe later cause you to lose your spot to them. And he said, yeah, that's why I give it to him, is because I got to go find new tricks now. When I give when I give them something, I now have another reason to wake up and get back to work because I just gave somebody who could take my job some tricks, some advice that could help them that I had to learn the hard way. So I got to find a new way to fight now. And is that's the kind of mindset that you're talking about, right, Brenden?
100%. Yep.
Yeah, you got to have that killer. We call it winning the hour. So the first chapter of our book, The Sportlight, we talk about winning the hour, and we use the phrase going 16-0. We actually are talking more about the other 8 hours, but we talk about the 16 hours that you're awake, assuming you sleep 8. Now, recently, we've discussed how we need to talk more about the importance of the 8, that you're getting sleep. How important is that to you as a pro athlete to make sure that you're getting the proper sleep, winning the hour, the days the hours you're awake? We're talking about not wasting time, prioritizing your day, making time for what really matters. But how important are those 8 hours that you're getting rest to being an elite athlete?
Oh, it's huge because that's when your body does the most recovery is while you sleep. And so not only am I real cranky if I don't get like a good 8 hours of sleep, but my body just doesn't feel right. And that falls into the category of just like recovery in general, where, I'm the first one to say I hate the cold tub. But guess what? I'm like one of the first guys into the cold tub because I know how beneficial it is to my legs, my knees, my joints, my muscles, all of that. And that also leads into taking care of yourself with your diet. Like you have to eat clean. You can't be, going out eating McDonald's, drinking like all these sodas, and every once in a while, like go treat yourself. Like we work hard for this stuff, but you got to put the right things in your body because then that leads to inflammation in your joints, and then that leads to you getting hurt. Then that leads to you ultimately not being on the football field, not being on the court, not being wherever you are because you didn't take care of the easy things. And that's easy. You're not even going out. You don't got to break a sweat to cook good food, but it's, not as convenient as it is going through a drive-through. So having recovery, your sleep, your body, getting massages. And I had one of our older players, Jabril Peppers, on our team talking to us last week, and he was talking about, how guys will, go to the club, spend thousands of dollars on alcohol, but, are mad when they got to pay $250 for a massage. It's like, well, look, that's an investment into your body. Like, let's not spend so much money on, those things that make you look good, but let's spend the money on things that are going to make your career last longer, things that are going to make you make more money at the end of the day. You get to do this a couple years longer because you took care of your body in the moment instead of having so much fun. And, look, life's all about give and take and moderation. And I get it. You want to have fun, you want to do these things, but you got the rest of your life to do that, man. And I think, having those influential guys and, having the old heads on the team when I was in college, when I was, first getting into the league, kind of show you the way and be like, look, don't make these mistakes I did. Don't do this. Don't do that. They're telling you for a reason is because that stuff is true and they went through it. So, I mean, recovery is huge at the end of the day. That's half the battle right there.
Yeah. We have a principal, Shad. Maybe I'd like to get his thoughts on compete without contempt. That's another principle of our program, another chapter in our book. Brenden, we stress competition. We were athletes. We love sports. I'm coaching every day, and I hate people who don't want to compete, whatever it is, right? So when we say compete without contempt, we purposely don't say sportsmanship, not because we want kids to practice poor sportsmanship, because that's an easy phrase to throw out. And I think everybody understands, well, yeah, you should be a good sport. And we all kind of know what bad sportsmanship, I think, looks like, but we don't want to undervalue the importance of competition. And as Shad mentioned earlier, and you kind of talked about, the biggest opponent is that you're competing against yourself, right? And I talked about the two dogs that are inside of us. That's what we're competing against. But competing with contempt. If your fuel, if your motivation is because you hate your opponent, you hate the person that you're going against, we try to encourage athletes that that's a very short-term motivation, that your motivation should be to compete because you've worked hard now to have the opportunity to go out and showcase what it is you've developed. And win or lose, you get a chance to do it. And so demeaning or devaluing your opponent by competing with contempt doesn't do any good for anybody. What are your thoughts on that? And how can we teach young people and adults that competition is good, but we don't have to rub it in everybody's face when we win? There's a right way and a wrong way to compete. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think you hit it on the head. I think, there's times where you play in big rivalry games where you're like, you just do not like this school or, this team or whatever it is. But the way I've always, been told and taught how to conduct myself is your opponent should be faceless. Now, should their last name, their number, where they're from, height, weight, what they're good at, what they're not good at, 100%. Study your opponent. And I think that is kind of the art of the game, is you got to know what they're good at and what they're not good at and attack those weaknesses. But when I say no face, I mean, it shouldn't matter who's lining up against you. And my philosophy is like, whoever lines up against me, my goal at the end of the day is to just impose my will on you every snap, every moment that we get to go up against each other. You're going to feel me. You're going to feel all those days where we were running gassers, where I was dying, where I didn't want to do this, I didn't want to do that. Those dog days you have leading up to a season. Like, you're going to feel all of this. And it's not because I don't like you, but it's because I want to just dominate and just be the best at whatever it is I'm doing. I want to be the best version of Brenden. I want to be the best version, that my parents get to see, my family, my friends. I want to be that athlete, that God gave me these talents, and I want to go showcase those talents. And I'm gonna let you have it every single time that we're lined up against each other, and then I'll pick you up after, and I'll be like, it's gonna happen again. And so that's kind of how I was always taught to, approach your opponent.
Well, that's the beauty of it, because if you don't have that, and we're all three, I'm sure, the same way. There's you don't want to ever show up and play somebody who's apathetic towards who wins or loses. Like, that's not fun. I don't want to, if we're competing in something and you're just kind of nonchalant, well, I don't care if you beat me or if I beat you. Like, that's annoying as well. Like, no, I want you to want to take it, give it to me and take it to me and beat me, because I want to find what I'm made of, right? So we should appreciate the fact that there's an opponent there that's giving us a chance to test ourselves. But like you said, it's okay to like them off the field or to help them up or to be respectful, because without them, we don't get that opportunity. Right. And so I like the way that you worded that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to dominate in sports. These games are, especially football, it's a very physical, violent sport. It is what it is. If you get into it, you got to know that. But it doesn't mean you have to stand over somebody or text them or tweet at them after and try to ruin them. Because the truth is, most of our opponents, if they were on our team, would probably be our best buddies.
Yep. Right? 100%. Yep.
Dustin, it's something you said and something Brenden said, is just to build off it. I love when you started to talk about you don't need to hate your opponent. They're faceless. You started to mention things like family, love of the game, God. And it's like, for me, those are the sustainable fuels, right? Like, my mom was at every single game I was ever at. She wanted to see me be successful. To bring joy to my family, to bring honor to my last name that was on my back, the way I conducted myself. I loved, especially, the schools that I got to play for, and, And even growing up, like I loved representing my high school. I represented them. I loved my community. I loved my school. I loved my college. There's so much love that could motivate us that I think sometimes when people, and I've seen this, you've probably seen it too, but, and I'm not even going to mention names, though there's one on the tip of my tongue, but it's like they have to find something that their opponent did that offended them, and then they're going to go to the press and be like, oh, they said that, like, and now I'm motivated. And I just almost think if you have to have hate and you have to invent things about your opponent's character or something they did to offend you, I don't know that you're a true competitor. Like, I just need a ball and someone to play against, and I want to win. Like, my family gets mad at me for Monopoly. I don't want people to cheat. Like, I think that, no, let's play fair. Let's see who wins, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think it's a lack of competitiveness when we need hate to be our fuel. But when it's just, I want to beat that guy, I want to dominate that guy because it's all about me and my family and my school and the organization that trusted enough in me to pay me to play this game in your instance. That's a way better fuel. The fans that pay all that money to come watch you and you want to bring joy to the Patriot fans. Like, that is a great positive fuel. You don't need any hate within you to get motivated. So I heard that in both of your statements there. And I just think it's a cool way to think about competition, that the fuel should be love, not hate. It's just more healthy, more sustainable, more fulfilling.
No doubt.
You remind us again, when did you graduate or come out of college and join and get and end up as a undrafted free agent with the Patriots? What year was that?
So my rookie year was 22. So I'm heading into my third season with them now.
And you played quite a bit, right? Last year?
Yep. Yeah, I didn't miss a single game. Yeah.
Yep. And my understanding is you received some awards as well.
Yeah, I was first team All Pro. Got that award, which was huge, man. Super thankful and blessed, and I wouldn't be, anywhere I am today without my coaches and teammates who believed in me, and mom and dad, brother, sister, like those were the ones that were there since day one, and fell short of a couple other accolades that I wanted, but that one was super special to me, and just trying to go out there and do it again this year. And that's the game that we play. It's like you're only as good as your last performance. And right now no one cares that I got that award last year. It's cool, but I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear, oh, but you got this, you got that. Like, no, I got to do that again though this year. So it doesn't matter really what last year's accolations were. But yeah, I was super happy, man. That was big time because coming as a kid coming home in third grade and telling his dad, I want to be a professional football player, to getting an award like this that's voted on by your coaches and the guys you go up against. It's a huge accomplish, something to accomplish. And yeah, man, I just, like I said, I'm super thankful for that, man. I couldn't imagine getting something like that.
We have a all-pro, first team all-pro defensive NFL football player with us today. And he's talking about things that you're not going to get every day from just a regular person on the street. I'm going to ask you a hard question here, Brenden, because we didn't preface that I was going to ask you this before the interview, and I don't know you well enough. I do know as an undrafted football player to be 3 years or 2 years later an all-pro NFL player is a pretty intense rise to success. So I know that didn't come easy. Congratulations on that. But looking back on your life, and this doesn't have to be sports related, we oftentimes, one of our other principles in our program is resiliency. And we talk about that we don't really know if we're resilient until we have to be resilient, right? We think, yeah, I'm resilient. Well, we don't know it until life kind of kicks us in the face, and then we find out if we are or not. What has been something, football or non-football related, that you feel like your resiliency has really been tested? Have you had something in your life where you've really had to buckle down and really evaluate, can I get through this? Something hard that you got through that we might be able to share with our listeners that are struggling with something hard right now themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that really pops into my mind is, my journey through high school, where there was a mistake with one of my academic advisors, and she didn't realize I wanted to be put on track on a 4-year plan, and she just put me on a plan to be eligible to get into a junior college. So this was caught my senior year by one of my new academic advisors, and she was like, all right, well, this is savable, but you're going to have to take a couple extra classes, stay a little later. And, colleges would see that I'm not going to be a qualifier, and they would just be disinterested right away. And even when myself, my mom, my dad would tell them I'm going to be a qualifier, it's just not going to, it doesn't say that right now. And, Oregon came around, and they were talking to me, and my DB coach that really got me there, John Neal, he knew what the deal was, but it was trying to convince the head coach and the defensive coordinator. And I was actually enrolled at a junior college. I didn't sign on signing day. I was ready to go to a JUCO for a year and then go find a home somewhere. And Oregon ended up having this guy that got kicked off the team. And I signed my letter of intent on June 30th, which was well after signing day. And I actually missed like the first week of summer camp at the JUCO, my local JUCO, and missed all of fall camp, not all of fall camp, all of summer school, summer workouts at the University of Oregon, and just showed up 2 days before fall camp and ended up winning the backup corner spot. I played corner my first game up at Oregon, and then moved to the starting nickel spot and was a starting nickel. And then by the third game, I was the starting safety and was a freshman All-American, and was led the team in interceptions and whatnot. But what I'm getting at is my mom kept telling me, you just got to jump through the hoops. Just jump through the hoops they want you to jump through. And I think it was her just with that constant reminder that there's a common goal. There's a goal that you're working towards right now. And like we said earlier, your goals don't care how you feel. Like, you just got to keep working towards them, keep jumping through those hoops and doing whatever that is they need you to do to prove to them that you're ready to be there, and you're going to be a qualifier, and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. I think that taught me the resiliency. Well, she taught me that resiliency to believe, not only want to believe in myself, but just to do whatever it is you got to do within yourself now to get to that spot. And then, having a new head coach every year of football, and, having to deal with staff changes and coaching changes. And it just taught me to, like, whatever life throws at you, take it how it is and just make the best of it. Like, whatever it is that you got to do, however it is you have to approach this situation that you're in. And, when you pray and you ask for strength, God's going to give you an opportunity to be strong. Or you pray and you ask for patience, God's going to give you these opportunities to have patience and demonstrate that and have yourself learn what patience looks like, what being strong looks like. And, having a great family and having a religion to fall back onto, I think that helped me get through those tough times of just jumping through hoop after hoop.
That's awesome. Now, can I ask a question? Because it sounds to me like you graduated from Oregon. How many years were you at Oregon?
I was there from 2016 to 19. So I actually got my degree in just a little over 3 years. But I was able to be a grad transfer because of that. Because I know it's like, as soon as you get your degree, you hold all the power. Like, you can go or you can stay, you can do what you want. So I was always very motivated to get that done pretty quick.
Which is cool, and a cool story of resilience, that here's this kid that everyone's worrying about whether or not he was going to qualify, and whether or not really what they're worried about is, can this kid hack it in college, right?
Mhm.
And that's what the qualifying process is for. And then you not only jumped through the hoops to get there, but then you didn't and relax. It's like,
Mhm.
forget this. I'm going to graduate in 3 years to open my options while
Yeah.
I'm playing football, which that just shows why you are where you are and why you're an all pro, undrafted all pro in your second year is because it's just kind of that attitude that you're going to be relentless. Like after our interview, I'm just thinking, man, Brenden Schooler's he's just a relentless dude, you know? He's just going to keep going and keep going. And I think that's what resilience is. So that's cool that you struggled to qualify and then not struggled like academically or anything, but because of that situation, and then
Mhm.
graduate in 3 years, open up your options, and then it leads to this. I think that's a cool story of resilience.
Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna pick up on one thing you asked and then maybe ask a final question. Or one thing you said, excuse me, and then ask a final question. You said if we pray for for work, God's going to give us work. If we pray for patience, God's going to give us chance to be patient. There's a lot in that statement. And, when we go around and speak at schools, we can't talk about that sort of thing. We can on this podcast. So we're going to talk about it for a second because I love that. I agree with that. I think oftentimes those of us who believe in a higher power think that if we pray for something, God's just going to give us work ethic, or he's just going to give us patience because we asked for patience. So all of a sudden we're going to wake up a day or two later and be super patient and nothing's going to, rattle us. The truth of the matter is what you just said is if we pray for these things, we're probably going to be given opportunities to test our patience or to test our resiliency. And it's up to us to, you know of our motto, we wear it on our wristbands and we'll have to mail you one. We'd love to have you wear it.
No doubt.
We have one or two guys in the NFL right now, maybe just one. I know Jaron Hall with the Vikings, and maybe there's one or two others, but it would be awesome if you did, and you were kind of an ambassador for us in the NFL. But eyes up, do the work means exactly that if we take our eyes up to God and ask for something, he's probably going to tell us, okay, here's your chance. Now go do the work.
Yep.
Right? Like you're aware of something. Okay, here's your opportunity. You might not like the answer to it, but are you willing now to put your big boy, big girl pants on and your work boots on and go to work? Because I'm not just going to give it to you. That's not how this works. And I think the more we understand that as human beings, and you probably said the word 20 times today is work, 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 work. That at the end of the day, if we don't know what should I do, work. That's really the answer. So that builds into my final question. We would be stupid if we didn't ask you this because you play for probably the greatest, at least 1 year. He's not there now, but all-time coach, NFL football coach of all time. What was that like? Your interactions or something that you learned from playing for Coach Belichick, who is an all-timer?
Yeah, I was thankful, that he took a chance on me. Like he didn't have to bring me in. But at the end of the day, it was his say so. So super thankful that, he took a chance on this long-haired kid that played at Texas. But, getting to be, 2 seasons under Bill, you just learn that no one's too big for the team. Like there's a common goal. And if, you put the team before yourself, that will bring you personal accolades. That's going to bring the team success. And I think with him, it's just like you got to find whatever that role is on a team and just be the best at it. Prove to him, prove to the coaches, prove to yourself that you deserve to be there every single day. And you're going to show up and you're going to be consistent and you're going to be dependable and tough. And you're going to be that nitty-gritty football player that is going to get the job done day in and day out. And we know exactly what we're going to get. So I think just having the football knowledge that he has and being able to break down film and learn how to look at tendencies and, as a rookie and, second year guy, you just try to absorb everything you can. And he just has, over these decades of just football knowledge up in that noggin of his. So when he did spit out those little, golden nuggets, you're just like, oh, let me write this down real quick. And, because you're probably going to forget it if you don't write it down. So just knowing what it means to be, a true pro in the NFL and, show up to work every day and, put the team first and do your job and do it to the best of your ability. That was the, the epitome of what he preached to us day in and day out.
Well, that's awesome, man. And if anybody wants to look at resiliency and also look at the truth of sports, so that it's not always great. Not every year is great. Is go look at Bill Belichick's coaching record. Go look at his career. He had years where he didn't win a lot of games. Especially early in his career. He had some games or seasons where he didn't do great and he was let go and he just kept grinding and then ends up now being, most likely Andy Reid's coming after him, but the all-time greatest, football coach, at least at the NFL level. So Brenden, we probably better wrap this up, but listen, man, we'd love to have you on again. You said talk about spitting out some golden nuggets, man. You said a lot today that we can use and we're going to use and we'd love to keep in touch with you. We're going to be fans of you. And I told you on the phone, you're going to have a lot of fans out in Utah now of you following you and the Patriots. So didn't know if you knew that you'd become a fan of some random people out in little old Utah, but your interview is for sure done that. We're going to keep an eye on you and we look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you guys for having me as well. Thank you.
Well, Dustin, that was a great conversation. Any concluding thoughts to our interview with Brenden Schooler?
Well, I think there's a lot of things there that I hope that when athlete or parents or coaches that hear this will ask their athlete or their son or daughter to listen to that and do so with a notebook handy, because there were several quotes, just quick blurbs that were said that we could have dove, into and spent a lot of more time talking about. So, please share this with every athlete should listen to this interview we just did with Brenden.
Yeah, I agree. So like it, share it, listen to it, and as always, keep your eyes up and do the work.
This has been the Sportlight Podcast from Especially for Athletes, sponsored by Coca-Cola. You can learn more about Especially for Athletes by visiting the website at especiallyforathletes.org. You can also learn more about the book, The Sportlight, by Shad Martin and Dustin Smith at especiallyforathletes.org/book.